Hello everybody and welcome to part 4 of What If Midoriya Was the Shield Hero. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, you'll find them in the description below. If you enjoyed the series and want to see more, be sure to hit that like button. I'm going to ask for 200 likes for the next video. I know you guys can do it because you guys have been constantly smashing the like button on the previous ones, and I'm going to heighten it a bit more than usual to make you go a bit higher. As always, if you have any suggestions or criticisms, be sure to leave them down in the comments below, or ideally my Discord, link to that in the description below. Last thing I have to say, spoilers, as there are some abilities that may appear that haven't yet shown up yet in the anime. And also warning, I may be taking some liberties and guesses with some other things like new characters and whatnot. With all that said, let's get started. In the previous episode, Midoriya and Raphtalia fought in the waves of catastrophe. After the wave was over, Motoyasu called Midoriya to a duel, which Midoriya managed to win using One for All. He got some good money from it, using a good amount of it in order to free some people from slavery. Now Midoriya, Raphtalia, and both new slaves walk out of the slave trader's tent, along with a new egg incubator which holds an egg from the random egg lottery thing. Raphtalia asks, "What are we going to do now, Midoriya?" Midoriya answers, "Good question." His stomach rumbles and Midoriya says, "How about we go get something to eat?" The group then goes to a nearby inn. There, Midoriya orders 4 plates of food. Rhino, one of the slaves, thinks to herself, "He's the shield hero, right? The one who committed that crime? Would he really be so cruel as to order 4 plates to give us hope and then take it away from us?" While they wait for the food to come, Midoriya sits next to the bunny demi-human that he bought. We'll call him Todd, just to make it simpler. Midoriya reaches out to inspect his broken arm. Todd flinches, expecting Midoriya to attack. Seeing him flinching, Midoriya stops and says, "Sorry, if you don't want me, it can wait." Todd says, No, go ahead, just don't hurt me, new master." Midoriya, with a gentle smile, says, "Call me Midoriya." He gently touches through the broken arm, getting a feel for it. He then looks a bit more to examine some other injuries. Midoriya grabs a small potion from his bag and hands it over to Todd. He says, "Drink this." Todd drinks it and in an instant his arm is healed. Midoriya asks, "Does that feel better?" Todd nods while feeling his arm. Midoriya grabs a bit of ointment and says, "Now this is going to sting a bit, but don't worry about it." He then spreads some ointment through Todd's injuries, healing them. Todd says, Thanks, Master. Thanks, Midoriya." Midoriya smiles and says, "Anytime." The food then arrives. The plates are set on the table, and Midoriya takes his proper seat and grabs a plate. Raphtalia grabs another one. The 2 slaves just sit there, looking at the plates. Midoriya asks, "What are you waiting for? Dig in." The 2 then grab the plates and start eating. Todd eats with his hands, putting as much food as he can into his mouth, but Rhino, being more civilized and having the tools available, eats with her utensils. Rhino looks at Midoriya for a moment and thinks, he doesn't seem as bad as the rumors say he is. He seems very kind. After lunch, they set out to a shop where Midoriya buys a map. He opens it and says, "Okay, so it's about noon. The village we're going to is beyond the forest, about a day and a half on foot according to Itsuki." Raphtalia chimes in and says, "If we teleport to Loot Village, we can reduce the travel time by a third. If we sleep in the forest, we'll make it there by noon tomorrow." Midoriya says, "Sounds like a plan, but we should probably go buy some potions and stuff while we're here, before we leave." Raphtalia asks, "What about them?" Midoriya hits his forehead and says, "Oh, right, I forgot." He turns to the 2 new slaves who are looking at him perplexed, wondering what's happening. Midoriya says, "You're free." This statement confuses the 2 even more. Todd says, "What?" He pauses for a moment, expecting for some sort of punishment for speaking out of turn. Realizing that Midoriya isn't going to do anything, he continues, What do you mean?" Midoriya says, "Well, honestly, this may be a bit strange on my part, but I think that freeing the slaves little by little may be a good idea. At least until I can amass a group strong enough to take the whole business down. Frankly, I'm really against the idea of slavery." Todd says, What are we supposed to do then? Midoriya says, well, you can choose to stick with me for as long as you want, or you can do whatever else you want. The choice is yours. Although you have to be able to fight if you want to stick with me. Raftali says it can get a bit dangerous. Todd asks, but what's stopping others from recapturing us and selling us back into slavery? Midoriya says, well, getting rid of the slave crest would be too expensive for them to capture you. I mean, I don't think you're worth it to them. Todd asks, but what am I supposed to do? I doubt I can get decent work even if I'm free. Midoriya smiles at the rabbit demi-human. He then starts thinking. Raftali interjects and says, I'm sure the people in Loot Village would be happy to take him. As a favor to us, anyway. Midoriya says, you're right. Todd says, then I'd like to stay there if it's possible. Thanks, Midoriya. Midoriya turns to Rhino and asks, what about you? Rhino thinks for a moment and says, I'm an adventurer either way. If you're really serious about this, I'll stick with you for a bit, I guess. Midoriya smiles and says, great, but if you're sticking around, then we're going to need some equipment, aside from some new potions and stuff. Oh, and I still have some medicine left over that I can sell. The group then sets out to take care of some business. The first thing they do is go to the medicine shop. There not only does Midoriya manage to sell all of his stock for a decent profit, about 45 silvers, but the shop owner also gives him a book that includes more advanced recipes and better tools for him to make medicine with. All as thanks for helping out his family in Loot Village. After that, the group heads to the magic shop to buy some special potions for Midoriya's arms, since he uses one for all during the waves and another one to heal Todd. The lady that owns the shop sells the materials to Midoriya at a discount, also gifting him a grimoire so he can learn a bit of magic. She also tells the group their affinities. Raftalia's magic affinity is light and dark magic. The woman recommends her to learn illusion magic. Midoriya's magical affinity is healing and support magic. He can boost people's stats and heal them. He has these because, well, I think that they come from the shield, so that's why I'm giving them to him. Rhino's magical affinity is fire and lightning. Todd also gets his red, but it's a bit unimportant, so I'm not gonna bother coming up with any. Afterwards, they head to Erhard's smith shop to buy some equipment for Rhino. Erhard asks, so what will it be for your new party member? Rhino says, well, I'm used to fighting with a battle hammer if you have any of that sort. Erhard says, an unusual request, but I have some good ones out back. He grabs one and says, this one should be within your price range. Midoriya says, thanks, Erhard. They get some decent armor for her too and leaving 3 gold pieces and 45 silver on the counter. Midoriya then asks, are you all ready? Everyone says yes. Midoriya then activates his skill and teleports the group to Loot Village. Small note in case you may have missed it, Midoriya analyzed all the systems he could and found out that he can teleport to places he's already been to. They then appear in Loot Village. Upon appearing, they are greeted by the villagers, who again thank him for the help. Midoriya asks for the favor. He asks them to incorporate and take care of Todd. The villagers are a bit hesitant since he's a demi-human, but they accept the request of the hero, saying that they'll treat him as another member of the village. Midoriya thanks them. The rest of the group sets off to cross the forest. They traveled all the rest of the day, beating a bunch of monsters on the way. Some sky blue, wings, and many other types of monsters. At the beginning of the journey, Midoriya was level 29, Raphtalia 32, and Rhino 20. At the end of the day, Midoriya reaches 31, Raphtalia is 33, and Rhino is 25. They set for the night, gathering some firewood and food. They cut up a monster and cook him up for dinner. Upon talking a bit, Rhino says, this is delicious. Midoriya says, then eat up. Eat as much as you would like. After a bit, Raphtalia asks, so, Rhino, if I may ask, how did you end up as a slave? Rhino then tells the tale. Well, I was sitting at an inn, and the spear hero started flirting with me. Midoriya thinks, of course, he is involved with this. Rhino continues, he invited me to his party and I joined. Later that day, one of his companions, the redhead, stripped me of my belongings and sold me. Of course, because she's apparently royalty, even though it's illegal, she has the right to sell me. Rhino then asks, if I may ask, how exactly did you earn your reputation? You don't strike me as the kind of person who would rape someone. Midoriya says, it has to do with the princess too. My first day in this world, she tricked me while I was sleeping, she stole my money and my belongings and then accused me of rape, stripping me also of my reputation. Raphtalia says, at least they took the charges away. Mira says, for now, but they're still going to treat me as if I did all those things. Opinions take time and actions to change. Midoriya then turns to Rhino and asks, how does Motoyasu's party actually fight? Rhino thinks for a moment and says, well, it's very different from your party. From what I've seen, we are all attackers. If things get dangerous, you switch to defense and help out. His team, on the other hand, has all focused on him. He's the primary attacker, with the others using spells and cheering him on from the background. Midoriya says, interesting. After a bit more talking, the two girls go to sleep, with Midoriya staying watch while making some medicine. A couple hours later, Raphtalia wakes up to switch with him. The next day, Midoriya wakes up, hearing a small crack. He looks over to the incubator and whispers, I thought it would take a bit longer. The rest of the party wakes up to see the egg fully crack and a small Filo, pink, come out. Rhino says, she's so cute! Hey, little fella. The Filo then jumps onto Midoriya's head. Raphtalia asks, are we going to keep it? Mira says, that's the idea. It should make traveling a lot easier and faster. Rhino asks, how are you going to call her? Midoriya thinks for a moment and says, it reminds me of a friend with the color and all. I think I'm gonna call her Ochako. The group then sets off to the village of Lafan. They reach the village at about noon and spend the rest of the day leveling up at the dungeon nearby. They don't only level up but also get some good loot and upgrades from the dungeon. By the end of the day, Midoriya is level 35, Raphtalia 37, and Rhino 30. Oh right, and Ochako, which is what I'll be calling Filo because I do feel like Midoriya would call her that, is at this point level 19. At this point, having leveled up a lot throughout the day, almost being full-grown Filo. Although her stomach has been growling a lot, and Midoriya has had to cook a lot of the monsters to feed her. Midoriya and company then grab a lot of extra meat, buying some and then cook it. Ochako eats a lot of the meat, with the rest being left at the stables for her to eat later. Nightfall is near, and they all have already eaten. In their room at the inn, Midoriya tries to read through the book but doesn't manage much, not being able to read anything. He sighs in frustration and asks, how do you even read this? Rhino asks, do you not know how to read, Midoriya? Midoriya says, I can read Japanese and English, but not this language. My shield translates what you're saying, but not the written language. Rhino says, I can teach you if you want. Raphtalia, hearing the conversation, asks, can you teach me too? Rhino smiles and says, sure. They spend about an hour and a half with that and then go to sleep. The next day, they go to the stables to find that during the night, Ochako has eaten all of the extra food they had and grown to a full Filo size. The group goes back to grind, heading back into the dungeon. Most of the day passes, and at late afternoon, the group has so much loot they don't have room for it at all. They try to sell it, but no one in the village wants it. At this point, Midoriya is 38, Raphtalia has hit level 40, Rhino 35, and Ochako has gone up to level 30 because of all the monsters they've been hitting. The more they level up, the more they can take care of, and the more XP they get, because these are some monsters that give a lot of XP at this dungeon. Midoriya notices a star next to Raphtalia's name and thinks to what Itsuki said, thinking that she's ready for a class upgrade. After trying a shop, Midoriya asks, great, what do we do now? Rhino says, I bet these will fetch us a bigger score at the capital. They aren't willing to buy it here because the material is abundant. Midoriya says, good idea. Raphtalia says, how about we teleport to Loot, spend the night there and see how Todd is doing. We can then do the rest of the journey tomorrow. Midoriya says, that sounds like a good idea too. They then teleport to the village of Loot. There they are again welcomed with open arms. Todd tells them how the previous day was and enthusiastically talks about how everyone is like over dinner. After eating with him and the group goes to the inn near in the town. Midoriya asks, how much for a night here? The innkeeper answers, it's 1 silver, sir. Midoriya asks, what's the meal situation? How much will it cost for breakfast? The innkeeper happily says, well, the kitchen is closed for the night, but if you want, the bar is open. Otherwise, the meals are included in the price. Midoriya says, thank you. They then go to the stables to leave Ochako for the night. They then try to leave, but Ochako doesn't let them. Midoriya says, I guess we could do our studying here until she falls asleep. Any objections? Nobody objects, so they study next to Ochako until she falls asleep, then go to their room at the inn to go to sleep themselves. The next morning, the group takes it easy for a bit. Midoriya spends the time playing with Ochako, riding her around, seeing exactly how fast she can go. In the meantime, Raphtalia and Rhino spend the time practicing magic, with Rhino teaching Raphtalia what she knows. Since she already taught them to read the language, they've used the grimoire to learn a bit of magic. Around noon, Midoriya returns riding Ochako. They regroup with Raphtalia and Rhino. Midoriya says, we should get ready to leave soon. Just as he says this, a crowd starts gathering nearby. Mine holds up a scroll and says, in light of his exploits during the wave, the spear hero Sir Motoyasu has been appointed ruling lord of this region. Motoyasu, hearing this, sounds very satisfied. Mine continues, to help with the rebuilding efforts, we've decided to levy a toll. This toll will be 50 silvers to enter the village and 50 to exit. The villagers start to complain. Mine asks, you dare to defy your lord's orders? Midoriya speaks out, if the orders are unfair, then absolutely. Mine says, shield hero? What are you still doing here? This is Sir Motoyasu's domain now. Motoyasu spots Rhino. He grips his spear and with a lot of anger asks, Rhino, what the hell are you doing with this lowlife? Mine thinks, great, what's she doing here? Before Rhino can answer the spear hero's question, Mine shouts, what are you doing here, you insect? Leave this instant. Midoriya says, we were actually on our way to the capital, but you're treating these people completely unfairly. You shouldn't levy a toll that big on these people. It'll only ruin them. You know how much it costs to stay a night here? Motoyasu is about to say no, but before he can, Midoriya answers, it's 1 silver. 1 silver a night with food included. You want to charge these people the equivalent of 100 nights here just to enter and exit. I won't stand for that. The crowd then starts complaining. The local lord says, you can't just throw me out of office without reason. A villager says, and if it was the shield hero who protected us during the wave, not you. Todd asks, what have you done for this village? The villagers start revolting against their new lord. Motoyasu angrily thinks, that damn Midoriya, it's all his fault. Seeing this, Mine shouts, you dare speak out against your new lord? The guards then start pointing their weapons at the people. Mine is about to give an order to kill the villagers, and Midoriya is about to step in, predicting what she's going to do. But before anything can happen, a group of shadows shows up, handing a scroll to Mine. She reads the scroll with anger showing up on her face. Mine says, fine, shield hero, fight us for the right to rule this village. The villagers look at Midoriya and plead for him to accept. Midoriya says, fine, I can beat Motoyasu, no problem. Mine looks at Motoyasu and says, no, we will hold a dragon race. Ochako looks at Motoyasu's dragon with passion in her eyes. Midoriya says, okay then, let's do this, I guess. The town lord says, thank you very much, Sir Hero. Truthfully, not even I, as the town's lord, can take more taxation. We'll give you a huge reward as thanks. Midoriya gets onto Ochako and they both get to the starting line. The villager starts cheering Midoriya on. He says, we'll do our best. Motoyasu asks, "This is so lame. Are you seriously going to ride on that thing, not a dragon? Why am I even worried? I'm going to win this for sure." Midoriya gets onto Ochako and says, "That's what you thought last time." Motoyasu gets angry and prepares a spear. Midoriya readies his shield for defense and says, "Remember, this isn't a fight, it's a race. If you want to turn it into a fight, then fine by me." Motoyasu calms down and says, "We'll stick to the race. You'll never win with that thing." Midoriya senses Ochako's anger and says, "Calm down, Ochako. Show him on the battlefield." Ochako lets out a "Rah!" agreeing with Midoriya. They all get ready for the race. The town's lord says, "The race will be 3 laps around the outskirts of the village. Whoever reaches the gate first will be declared the winner." The villagers start cheering for Midoriya while Mine cheers for Motoyasu. The lord says, "On your marks, get set, go." The race starts and both the dragon and the Filo start racing at incredible speeds. Ochako gets an early lead, leaving Motoyasu in the dust. Midoriya says, "Good job, now show him exactly what you're made of." Ochako then, using all of her frustration, starts going faster to vent it, with Motoyasu struggling to keep up. In the middle of the race, one knight says, "As source of thy power, I order thee, decipher the laws of nature, and create a pit in front of me. Earth hole!" Midoriya tries to maneuver around the hole that was just created, but Ochako trips, falling to the ground. Before she hits the ground, though, Midoriya jumps, activating One for All, and keeps on running. He shouts, "Hey Ochako, catch up as fast as you can, okay?" She says, "Gah!" Motoyasu overtakes Ochako, approaching Midoriya rather quickly. Motoyasu says, "Seems like even your quirk, you aren't as fast as my dragon." Filo catches up rather quickly, more mad than before. Midoriya jumps on top of her without stopping. They stick pretty close to Motoyasu, with him not allowing them to get a lead. Seeing both of them complete the first lap at pretty much the same time, Mine gets frustrated and orders the soldiers to do something about it. A knight says, "As source of thy power, I order thee. Decipher the laws of nature and heed my command to slow my target. Speed down." Midoriya and Ochako start slowing down. Seeing the knight perform the magic, Midoriya says, "So it's fair game then." He points to Ochako and says, "As source of thy power, I order thee. Decipher the laws of nature and hasten my target. Speed up." Midoriya thanks Rhino for like in his head, he thanks Rhino for helping him with the magic, and Ochako maintains the same speed as she originally had. Another knight then uses his magic on Motoyasu to make him go faster as he overtakes Ochako. Midoriya asks, "Can you go faster?" Ochako says, "Gah!" and accelerates as much as he can, but it's no match for the hastened dragon. They enter the third lap, making headway with Motoyasu keeping a good distance. Midoriya says, "Think, Izuku, think, analyze your opponent, think of something." Midoriya then remembers back on the fight against Motoyasu when he took his spear and it reappeared onto his hand. He then looks at his shield. Midoriya throws the shield at Motoyasu, hitting him over the head, causing him to fall off the dragon. He then keeps running with the shield appearing on his hand. Motoyasu then gets back up and starts running behind him, rage building up inside of him. Motoyasu tries to catch up, but Midoriya manages to get a commanding lead. They reach the final corner with another hole appearing in front of them. Midoriya shouts, "Airstrike shield," giving Ochako a platform to bounce off of. They keep the lead. In a last-ditch effort, Motoyasu shouts, "Airstrike javelin." He throws a spear at Midoriya. Midoriya activates One for All and catches it mid-air, with the spear disappearing from his hand. He then continues to the finish line, passing it and winning the race. The villagers then start thanking Midoriya for winning the race. Midoriya says, "Don't thank me, thank..." He looks at Ochako, who just transformed into her Queen Filo form for the first time. Midoriya asks, "What the hell just happened?" Mine walks up to them and says, "You cheated! Not only did you use magic in the race, but you didn't tell us that your Filo was that massive beast." Midoriya says, "Well, it's because I didn't know that she was this massive, and I assumed the magic was fair game after you used it." Mine says, "We didn't agree to such things." Midoriya says, "Then explain your knights using magic to slow me down. Speed Motoyasu up and those holes." Mind says, don't be ridiculous, we did no such things. The shadows then appear and say, the shield hero is right, we found traces of earth magic in the field. Mind tries to pin up Midoriya, but it backfires. Motoyasu then runs at Midoriya, spear in hand, wanting to attack him. He shouts, what kind of underhanded tactics was that? Midoriya says, I was just doing what your team would. Motoyasu turns to Rhino and asks, how could you side with such a cheater? Midoriya says, you know, my teacher once told me, in a battlefield, you do what you must to survive and keep others safe. And Rhino says, he's no cheater. If anyone cheated, it was your team. Midoriya just balanced the scales in order to help out the village. Plus, with all the grief you've caused him, I think you deserve to be knocked down a peg. Motoyasu tries to retort, but Rhino says, plus, even if he's a cheater, at least he wouldn't stay idly by while someone from your party sells me into slavery. Motoyasu hears again bits and pieces of what was just said, thinking, that damn Midoriya, he's turning the whole world against me. Mind says, whatever, let's go, Sir Motoyasu. Motoyasu goes to grab the dragon, but Mind stops him, saying, leave that beast, it's useless anyway. The dragon looks sad, so Midoriya is about to take it in, but Ochako looks at it with burning hatred, so the villagers end up keeping it. Midoriya says, now, about that reward you mentioned. The Lord says, yes, we're currently asking everyone to donate from some funds to give to you. Midoriya says, no thank you, I don't need the money. If anything, I would give you some myself to help with the rebuilding. The Lord says, you are too kind, Sir Hero, but if not money, then what can we give you to show our thanks? Midoriya asks, what do you have? The Lord thinks for a moment and says, well, we have the remains of the beast that the hero was defeated during the wave. Oh, and I guess that we can offer an old card too. It could help you out in travels. Midoriya bows and says, I'll take it, thank you very much. Midoriya is then given the materials left from the Chimera, which he feeds into his shield, unlocking the Chimera Viper Shield and a couple others. They then hand him a broken carriage, which they quickly repair. The Lord also gives Midoriya a trader's badge to show his appreciation, which Midoriya accepts. The group then sets off to the main castle town. However, it gets late and they decide to settle down in the fields for the night. The three adventurers and Filo, or in this case Ochako, then go to sleep. When they wake up, next to Midoriya is a little blonde girl who is sleeping. Well, that's where I'm leaving it up for today. Sorry, I just don't feel like editing the video, so you'll just get basic images. I'm going to say one more thing though. In order to avoid a bit of confusion, Rhino is technically not a spoiler or anything. She's actually an existing character that appeared in an extra chapter of the first light novel of Rising of the Shield Hero. There isn't much info about her since that is her only appearance. All we know is that she's a level 20 adventurer and she was sold into slavery by mine. And we presume she's human, so I am making her human. If you enjoyed, if you did, sure, would be nice if you'd leave a like. Again, 200 likes and I'll make the next part. I don't know. I'll see when I have it ready. If you have any suggestions, criticisms, or anything of the sort, be sure to leave them in the comments or in my Discord. Link to that will be in the description below. With all that said, I wish you all a great day, and until next time everyone, have a fantastic time. Bye!